Robin Mathews, your first ever Oscar nomination, although you've been working in the industry for a good while. Tell me about the morning of the announcements.
Well, we're just so stunned at first at all just to be considered in the top 7 films. So I had my best friend from New Orleans. I'm born and raised in New Orleans. Had my best friend fly out from New Orleans to spend the day with me. And we said we're going to wake up at 5 in the morning and have a wonderful bottle of champagne. And if anything wonderful happens, great. If not, we're drinking champagne at 5 in the morning, and that can't be a bad thing. So that's what we did. And the news, they have the broadcast for the Academy Awards nominations where they tell you just who announce who the actors are, and then on the website is where they place all the other nominations. So I turned on the broadcast to watch the nomination announcements and saw my name pop up on the Academy website, and I just don't remember anything else after that. It was a lot of screaming and crying.
Well, the film, of course, Dallas Buyers Club did very well overall. Best Picture, Best Screenplay, Best Actor and Best Supporting Actor. I think editing. I mean, it's a good haul for the movie.
I know. I was most shocked by the Best Picture. I mean, certainly I think we should win Best Picture, but I was surprised that our little tiny movie got that far.
Well, I saw, or maybe it was Matthew was talking to the owner of our website, Tom O'Neill, a couple of weeks ago, and was saying that, in particular, the makeup and hair budget on this movie was about as low as you could go and still be a major film production. So yeah. he was complimenting you to say you did way more with what you had than most.
Oh, how sweet of him. He and Jared both have been such advocates for the makeup of this film. I mean, they fought for it just as much as I fought for it. And it was a very low budget. I had $250 for my makeup budget. It's the most under-budgeted film I've ever been part of shooting, for sure. I don't know how we accomplished what we did for $4.5 million. I mean, that's nothing compared to, other films and what we were able to accomplish with the look of the film. But yeah, $250 was a first for me.
Well, I looked over your career, and I'm wondering, a movie like this is very true to life, very realistic kind of makeup. You have to go with what happened in real life, as opposed to, and you had other movies like that, but as opposed to, say, a Twilight, which is more of a fantasy movie. What do you prefer? Do you prefer a realistic approach or a fantasy kind of a movie?
I mean, I love them both. It depends on what the film is. That's one of the first things that I always ask a director. Do you want gritty realism in your film, or do you want Hollywood pretty? Which way do you want to go with it? And some directors choose one, some directors choose the other. But a film like Dallas Buyers Club, it had to be perfectly realistic. We couldn't allow the audience to see any of the makeup that went into making them look sick or healthy. They lost, Matthew and Jared both lost somewhere between 40 and 50 pounds to play these roles, but then they maintained that weight throughout. And when you see them and they're healthier because they get the right medications, they gain about 25 pounds in the film and they look healthy. And then when they lose the medications because of the FDA, then they're supposed to lose about 25 pounds and look skeletal and, have lesions and rashes and stuff like that full-blown AIDS patients did get in the 80s. And we couldn't allow the audience to realize that was makeup doing that. I mean, it had to look like they were just sick, And so I think in a film like that, if you're watching the screen and you see the makeup, it's just taken you out of the film, and I haven't done my job properly. So we were able to pull that off, thankfully. But that doesn't mean that I don't also love the Hollywood version of, designing the makeup for Kristen Stewart's Bella Swan, to make her look like it was a little bit of an influence of Snow White, a little bit of an influence of the Disney characters. To go in there where she's got a no makeup look, but she really does have makeup on, So I like to do the balance of both.
Now, when somebody like Matthew or like Jared, when the crew and yourself see what all they're going through to make such a physical transformation, does that kind of boost the morale? I mean, on the set, or do you all want to go the extra mile just because they are as well?
Oh, absolutely, 100%. Seeing what they were going through made us all just know that this was going to be something very special. Certainly I didn't think for the makeup it would be anything recognized or special, but I knew that Matthew and Jared's performances were going to get nominations. I just knew it. I mean, they were those characters. And a funny little story, I mean, I think people have heard about the grits and cornmeal that, I had no budget and I couldn't make prosthetics for this rash called seborrheic dermatitis that full-blown AIDS patients normally get. And so I said, okay, I don't have time or money or help to make prosthetics for that, which I would normally use, so what can I do? And I looked at all the research photos I had, and I said, well, the rash looks, the parts that are the boils, the infectious parts kind of look like little bits of grits and cornmeal, maybe powdered milk, So I started experimenting with these different food products to try to figure out what looked realistic. And it turned out that the color of the grits was too white, the color of the cornmeal was too yellow. So I took tweezers and hand placed one piece of grit, one piece of cornmeal, and mixed it up so it looked exactly like the real photos. And Matthew loved it. He's like, it's great. It looks just like what it's supposed to look like. We have to do this. And I'm thinking to myself, you've just lost a tremendous amount of weight. You're not recognizable at all. The performance you're doing is just the most outstanding thing I've ever seen. And you want me to put grits and cornmeal on your face for this film? I can't do it, Matthew. I can't do it. I have to think of something else. And he pushed me. He's like, you got to. It looks great. So I did, and thank God it turned out okay. When I saw it on camera, I could exhale and realize it was going to be all right. But I thought it could be the end of my career,
Well, that's usually when people get rewarded the most in any walk of life, is when you do take a risk and it pays off.
I guess. I'm starting to figure that out.
Well, one thing I love about Oscar season is it is quite a few weeks, and your nomination came in mid-January, and the ceremony's not until March 2nd. But one of my favorite events along the way is the Oscar nominee luncheon. I'm hoping you got to go to that.
I did get to go to that, and I couldn't wait to go because I couldn't wait to meet Jared Leto. Even though I spent 5 hours a day sometimes in the makeup chair with him while shooting Dallas Buyers Club, I never met him. I only met Rayon. Matthew I had already known because I'd worked with him before. But, Rayon came to us as Rayon, and none of us got to meet Jared. So at the luncheon, I met Jared, and I walked up and said, hello, it's so nice to meet you, and he gave me a big hug, and I know he just thought, well, who is this crazy, why is she staring at me like this? Because his mannerisms were different, and the way he spoke and held himself, his voice was much lower. I mean, I'm sure he thought I was nuts, but I just couldn't stop staring at him because it was such a difference.
Well, that luncheon, I know you get to meet a lot of people across all walks, and I think they split you up into different, like your table might have had, an actor, a producer, or maybe a director, or, anybody but a Dallas Buyers person, probably. Who was at your table?
Yes, they do it very diplomatically and divide everyone up. Everything the Academy does, I mean, the general public doesn't realize this. It is so first class, so first rate, just everything is absolutely flawless. I've never witnessed anything like it. I mean, from everything they send you is hand-delivered to your door. It's just all perfect. At my table, I was sitting right up in the front, which was very surprised about. I was with the vice president of the Academy, who's also the head of the makeup branch, the head governor of the makeup branch, the CFO of the Academy, Rachel Winter, who's one of our producers from Dallas Buyers Club, was at my table, and another Academy member that is in charge of the artifacts and stuff like that, the museum, and then David O. Russell was at my table.
Oh, okay.
And we all, we had guests. My mother was sitting next to David O. Russell, and she's just jibber-jabbering to him about, all kinds of stuff, and he was the only one that I didn't get a chance to say hello to because I was so busy talking to the other people at the table. And he all of a sudden grabbed my hand in the middle of the luncheon and shook it, and he wouldn't let go. And he said, Robin, I know all about your work in Dallas Buyers Club. I know what street you grew up on, what your first dog's name, the fact that you were in an opera when you were 5 with your mother, because my mother had been telling him all this crazy stuff about, she didn't understand who he was. Mom, you got to stop the bragging thing. It's David O. Russell, He doesn't want to hear this.
Well, you never know. These kind of things can lead to other jobs.
Maybe she's a good agent for me. David, I would love to work with you.
Take her in on the interviews, and you don't even have to talk.
Right. She would be happy to do that, trust me.
One thing, I asked one of your nominees in this category last week when I interviewed Steven from Bad Grandpa. It kind of bothers me that this category only has 3 nominees every year. Every other category, even the shorts, I'll have 5. Does that kind of bother you as well?
It is every other category, right? We're the only ones that have 3?
I think so. Now, used to be some categories did have 3, but they've all expanded to 5.
I don't understand it at all. I have always been perplexed by that myself. But I guess it makes it statistically harder to win a makeup Academy Award than an acting Academy Award or directing, right? I mean, I would guess. So I can't complain since I've been nominated, but I think I think they should be five films up.
Well, I was just looking at our prediction center. I don't know if you've ever looked at that, but it's a combination of reporters from all over the country that we call our experts, editors like myself, and then all of our users on our website. It's got like 1,500 people voting in there, and you're so overwhelmingly favored. You've got 87% of the people thinking you're going to win.
You're kidding me? No, I haven't seen it.
A lot of categories are like very borderline. Like let's say Jennifer Lawrence and Lupita Nyong'o. Or Matthew and maybe Leonardo DiCaprio, but your category and I think visual effects for Gravity are just so overwhelmingly positive in your case.
Oh my goodness! Thank you for letting me know. I will absolutely go check it out as soon as we're finished. I didn't know. That's wow. Thank you to the people that voted for this. My goodness.
Well, I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing in terms of your hopes, because I follow sports and sometimes a coach will say, I don't know that we want to be so much of a favorite because it's a bigger letdown if we actually do lose. It's almost better to be the underdog.
Well, we've always been the underdogs. This film, because of the budget and the fact that people didn't realize the extent of the makeup that was in it, because we were able to pull it off to just look like it was weight loss and gain or sickness. We've always been the underdogs. So to be to this point is so great. But I don't look at it that way. I think even if I don't win, I mean, how wonderful that so many people are supporting the makeup and the film and saying that they loved it. I mean, that's a win right there. That can never be anything but positive.
Well, we all think you're going to win. Now, the other thing I was going to ask you about, I didn't realize when we did when the nominations came out, your director of this movie was actually under a pseudonym for editing, so he actually is a nominee this year, just not under his real name.
You there?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm sorry. Did you hear that?
His editing?
Yeah, we didn't realize that he was under a pseudonym for editing the movie.
Yeah, I didn't know that either. And the funny thing, I was really a little upset because this is John. I mean, look, Matthew and Jared, this is their film too, but it's Jean Marc's film. I mean, we all worked for Jean Marc. He created this. And I was upset because they said, how can they not give him a Best Director nod? And I thought, we're able to the nominee luncheon, although it's only nominees, we're able to take one guest. And I was going to ask Jean Marc to go with me because I said, he's got to be there. And sure enough, he was there. He goes, no, I'm nominated for editing. It's my surname. And I was, oh, my God, I didn't know either. He's a sneaky one.